you're asking the Michigan legislature, as they are preoccupied with this other very important issue, to do some very, very heavy lifting in order to accomplish what the 21st Century Energy Plan would like to see accomplished. But I think Mr. Stanton is absolutely right that the ball is now in the legislative court. And with that, I will sit down and we can have a dialogue. Thank you.
Well, thank you for those observations, and conversation can now begin. We'd like to be able to invite questions from the audience and for our panelists to respond to. And Megan, could I ask you to have a mic to take around and get some answers? And Janessa, is there someone on your staff who might be able to help with that as well? Or maybe you have it all figured out, Janessa. Okay, great. Is there someone who has a question or wants to have a reaction from our panelist? Okay, I guess we'll. Okay.
I applaud the 21st Century Job Fund or Job Energy Plan. Job well done. I've been involved about 25 years with photovoltaics. In this state, this is directed to you, this state is absolutely spiraling down, looking for jobs and economic development. The photovoltaic industry, I just came back from San Jose, California, where more silicon has gone to photovoltaics worldwide than has gone into computer chips. The turning year was 2006. San Jose, California, the center of Silicon Valley, is churning up the photovoltaic production like you won't believe. This industry will be a trillion-dollar industry by the early part of this century, about 2018 to 2022. Take the exact date, but it's growing 50% per year. Photovoltaics, for the audience, are solar cells that convert one-step light into electricity. They're integrated into a building, either in the roof or in the windows. You have the World Center in Muskegon, the Merrick Center, the Michigan Alternative and Renewable Energy Center. So you're looking at an industry that's pegged to be $1 trillion a year, growing 50% a year. Right now, this year, 2006, it was $17 billion. It will be $72 billion by 2010. You are the center of the universe here. You have the largest photovoltaic plant, thin film, which is the future of photovoltaics, going up in Greenville, about 20 to 25 miles from here. That's United Solar Alliance. Why would a state look away from this enormous energy opportunity, renewable energy opportunity, and economic development? These solar cells, and I've had to challenge this question for years. The solar cells don't work in Michigan. That is an absolute unadulterated lie. They work just fine. But these solar cells go all over the world. Right now, present tense, my little company is working on a 3 million watt solar cell going up in Italy. Italy has enormous incentives. Germany has enormous incentives. The solar cells will be made in Greenville, Michigan.
I'm going to forget what you asked if I don't answer soon. So.
Why look backwards when you can look forward?
I don't think, is this on?
It is.
Okay. I don't think I ever said that solar power doesn't work. I'm sure there are many instances in which it does work to its peak efficiency, which pales in comparison to other sources of power. Secondly, I did not say that I'm against solar energy, and I'm not against solar energy. Indeed, if it is as promising as you describe and is growing as much as it is, I don't know then why we have to mandate people to use it. If all the benefits are there, if it's efficient, if it's if it's affordable, if it's reliable, then the government doesn't have to force me to buy it.
I think, Tom, you wanted to respond.
Thank you. let's see. One, I want to invite Diane anytime to come sit down and talk with staff at the Public Service Commission and maybe come to some of the Michigan Renewable Energy Program meetings so that we can educate one another about, why we think the way we do and why you think the way you do. I think both sets of ideas are very important, and we need this dialogue to take place in the state of Michigan. Much as I love solar and I love solar photovoltaics, I'm not sure that the answer is layering on another and another and another government incentive or subsidy. I would love nothing more than to see the government remove the subsidies from the fossil fuel industry and the centralized utility industry, at which point we know today that wind, solar, biomass, and all those alternatives would already be economical today, and it would radically change the market. I would love to see a market where the costs of the externalities are somehow accounted for in the price of the product. We cannot continue with an economy where we want to base all our decisions on price, and we know that prices do not tell the ecological truth. That's just asking for more and more trouble, and I think that's why we end up with request after request after request for another kind of a subsidy or another kind of an incentive. To me, the smart answer is let's reform the tax system to get rid of those existing subsidies and incentives and go back to what we could have as a much more pure market someday.
Okay. I think Ken wanted to make a comment.
Well, I think, can you hear me? I go back to something that I heard Vijay say earlier today, and I thought it was a great keynote, by the way. I congratulate whoever's responsible for bringing him here to Grand Rapids. He made the comment that you're not going to go without regulation in the whole area of energy broadly looked at. The question I thought he raised was, what's the goal of the regulation? We're not going into totally deregulated markets. And one of the points that he made is the goal ought to be innovation, which I thought was very important as we look at how you regulate. But I agree with Tom that we're gonna have government regulation when it comes to generating electric power in the state. There will be some, and I think the question is, what do you want the goal to be? And I happen to believe it's not only a laudable but a correct goal, that government has a role in creating an incentive for more renewable sources of generating electric power and more efficiency. You can look over American history, time after time, government has had a role in the technology of the future, whether it was railroads and anything after that. So, I'm clearly have enough Republican pedigree to talk about competition, but I'm also not averse to having government create the incentives that I think are necessary.
One more question, if we could.
Yeah, I wonder what the group thinks of Australia's energy policy of eliminating the incandescent light bulb as an energy efficiency measure.
Who's ready to take this one?
I think it's an interesting step, and mostly public relations kind of an approach. As I hope you all know by now, the compact fluorescent lighting can now, with today's better versions, provide higher quality light at a significantly improved efficiency and lower cost. Every one of those compact fluorescent lights that you can buy and put into a fixture where it will be in use several hours a day is like a better investment than a U.S. savings bond, to kind of put it in a perspective that we all know. So that market has improved radically over the last several years. It may be useful to point out the government-sponsored research that went into developing that technology. And much as we all love free markets, that research was instrumental in getting that technology to the market. Now that it is in the market, we should be able to withdraw all the subsidies and let it come in. There will be places where it really doesn't make sense economically to put in that kind of a lamp. Certainly in a society that decides across the board this is what we're going to do, it'll help bring the price down, I imagine, and make those lamps much more readily available. But they're also, I think, locking in today on last year's technology. What about light-emitting diodes that are now coming into the market that will replace them, that will be able to replace the compact fluorescent? Or the research that was done at Sandia Labs where they learned how to make a new incandescent filament that makes an incandescent lamp. I may not get the numbers perfectly correct, but it's like instead of 9% efficient at converting electricity to light, they're 60% efficient at converting electricity to light, and they're basically incandescent, so they could be as cheap to manufacture as what we have already been seeing. So I guess I'm not so much in favor of having the government lock in any particular technology choice and saying, this shall be the technology choice that we want for our society. Although if that's the kind of decision people want to make, then certainly they'll have to go along with it. I'm very interested in trying to figure out how can we get a lot of people interested in this problem and interested in working on solving the problem together. And I think those solutions have a lot to do with other things other than technology. And I'm hesitant to get us focusing too much on specific technologies, thinking that one technology or another will be the magic silver bullet that helps solve the problem.
Any other comments?
I thought that was a wonderful answer.
Ken? Let me.
In terms of questions about the light bulb, I'm not qualified. As a former legislator, I'm a lot better qualified to talk about how to generate heat rather than how to generate light.
Wonderful. Well, we need another hour to begin to discuss this, but hopefully you've got some interesting observations that will answer some of these questions and sort of bring us to a more practical, these are practical sessions, but I mean into your business. And so what we have designed are basically two wonderful breakout sessions that